Hey, what's up amigos? Today I'm going to show you how I shot and composited this in Adobe Photoshop. Alright, so a good starting point would be having a look at the original photo before moving into Photoshop. This is going to be a walkthrough because I've already shot and edited this photo, but because I had a lot of requests asking me how do I do compositions, and I think this is a good opportunity for you to follow and understand how I did that in post-processing. So this is the original photo that I shot, and it's very basic, don't get me wrong. I had a tripod, the camera, and a CPL filter to cut out the reflections, of course, of the car. I shot this through the golden hour, so the light was really soft, as you can see. I had an idea in my head. I previously have looked at oh wow, that's my account. Well, I wanted to show you the ad. Actually, that shot is, like I said, for Audi, and they've used it in one of their ads. And yeah, well, that's pretty much it. Now, don't forget to follow me on Instagram before we start. I usually say that towards the end. I have a lot of good stuff going in there. All right, so back to our subject. Yes, backdrop or backplate, as they call it, or the background. So I went to Shutterstock. Shutterstock is a website that offers royalty-free images in which you can purchase in use. I had something in mind. I looked for different sort of images and I added it to collections. I called it walls for some reason. You call it whatever, and then you can get back to it. And then I saw this and I thought, that would look like a really good picture, and had the idea in my head. So with that, I went there and shot this car. So you need to have sort of the idea in your head before going into, you know, the actually going and shooting the car, to understand how it will be shot. Like, for example, let's take another one. This is another shot, and this is fully composited. This is the original shot, and then this is after compositing. So you have to have an idea before going ahead with your photo shoot. So that part is done, pretty straightforward. All right, so let's move to Photoshop. Going in Photoshop, nothing out of the ordinary here. This is the entire composition, but let's break it down. So let's start with the backdrop. And again, I told you where I found that. I added a brightness adjustment just to dim the entire image a bit. I believe that's the smoke that is going behind the car. But before we get into this, let's have a look at the car, because that's what's important. And just like, the last tutorial, I think I explained how I cut out my cars, and that's usually pretty much done with the pen tool. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube that shows you how to do so. So I encourage you to watch, apply, and learn. All right, so moving forward, I used the pen tool, I masked out the car, but now I have something that is totally off. When you're about to embed or composite an image with a backdrop, there are a few things that you need to bear in mind. One is definitely think of matching its colors, the contrast, the overall exposure of the subject that you're trying to composite. So here are I think about 4 or 5 adjustments that I had applied on the car before actually taking it back to Lightroom. So let's have a look at it. So the hue and saturation layer, I did not do a lot with it, but because we had a lot of yellow cast hitting the car, I wanted to get rid of that from the basically the number plate and just a bit of the grill, I believe. So if I do before and after, I'm not sure if you can see that, but yes, it had that yellow cast. It just did not fit the scenery or the backplate, so I removed it. Now moving to the exposure, and that's where I've actually done just few places, like the sides of the car. I believe looking at my mask here, that's what I did, yep. And then I added the curves to actually bring down the exposure. Yes, I could have just done it all at once, but I just wanted to dim the sides further without actually, creating two. I actually created two curves, one exposure for that one. I did it gradually. I was doing it as I was going through the post-processing. And with that, actually, it sort of added a bit of contrast to the car. So if you can see before, it was too bright, too pale, but then when I sort of took the midtones a bit down, it brought that color of the RS3 back. All right, moving onwards with the fourth adjustment, and I can see that I've actually dimmed it even further just to match the color. We have the light coming from the front, from the back. We are expecting a bit of lighting from the front. All right, moving forward, yes, I just traced the windshield with the pen tool, and I just, dimmed it completely out. There you go. And that's my signature. Anyway, moving forward, let's go back to where we were before. So now we have a car. We matched sort of the exposure, the contrast, but then there's something missing here, and that's the shadows, right? So let's turn the shadows layer on. Now let's just remove the car for a while. The first shadow that I added is this. Yes, it looks silly, but it's very effective. Usually you would have 2 to 3 shadows when you look at an object. The first shadow is the, I don't know what do I call it, but when a subject touches the ground or the floor, you would have sort of a touching shadow, I would call that. And that's what this is right now. So I basically just painted with a brush, and I added that touching shadow. It's usually darker than other shadows around the car or the objects. And then I added another sort of shadow, and that's a bit softer. So it starts sort of dark and thick, and then it becomes more soft, sort of faded out towards the end of it. Now that looked good, and then I thought, since we have that sort of light to the back, it would be nice to see a third casted shadow. And I traced basically the area around the car with a pen, like here, from this area, and then I sort of filled it with black, and then I added a mask. So let's see it without the mask. So this is it without the mask, and I believe the opacity is set to 23%. So this is how it looked without the mask. I added a mask, and I explained that in my previous video about creating a rolling shot from a static shot. Have a look at that. And I used the gradient tool to apply a mask, sort of to fade that shadow, and that actually looked good. So I added also a bit of smoke just to add to that atmosphere, sort of smoky, grungy effect. And I applied an adjustment layer, and it's a level sort of thing, just to dim it down. I then added a bit of more sort of white around the car. So basically what I did, I added a layer with a brush, perhaps with a flow of 5 or 10, then just brushed with an overlay, sorry, a soft light layer style. I forgot what's that called right now for some reason. Blending mode. Yeah. So with the blending mode of soft light, I just sort of painted that out. And I added some, now I'm not sure, some people would like that, some people won't, but I was just experimenting with overlays. And then I saved it and took it back to Lightroom and noticed that it looked a bit too dim for me. And what I did basically, I adjusted the white slider. So if I take that back, and I take that back, it looks good, but I felt, well, it could use a bit of exposure in the whites area. So I just pushed the slider back to 70 or 60. It just gave it that contrast. Let's restore that back so I don't mess with the original file. And then I added a bit of clarity. I can see I added a bit of exposure and overall exposure. I didn't touch the hue and saturation here for some reason. I usually do that, but I did not. However, I added a bit of yellows to the highlights and then blues to the shadows, you know, the teal and orange and teal sort of look, and that looked really good. I believe I applied sharpening here. I did not do it in Photoshop. Don't ask why, but I did it. I could have just done it in Photoshop, but I can see that Lightroom did a very good job. In terms of vignetting, I added just a bit of vignetting, about -18, and again, that added to the look. So there you go. That's how I shot and edited this photo step by step. There's no really magic behind it. I think and I believe the more you do compositions, the better you get at it. It's just like anything else in life. So get out there, experiment with your cameras, with Photoshop, with Lightroom. Watch my videos and subscribe, because I'm going to do more of these walkthroughs, and I have pretty amazing things coming up for you guys. All right, one more time, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, guys. All the best, and I'll see you in my next videos, amigos.